I am a college admissions counselor and a tutor and a teacher. I used to teach, I've taught every grade 6 through 12 on both coasts of the country and in France. And I was rooting for France in the World Cup, so I was happy.
Hey Scott, I'm going to pause real quick and just have everybody move closer because I feel like we're really spread out. So pretty much if you're behind James, you need to move up. Including James. Like you need to be in front of this row of tables. Yeah, really. Same you too, man. Grab your chair, go circle around, get closer, ask your colleagues to move up.
Just try to scoot over or
Okay, so now I don't have to talk quite as loud. Can you hear me, Naomi? No? Yes? Yeah. Okay, good. And I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm Alex and I can hear you.
Alexander?
Yeah, Alex and I can hear you.
Thank you, Alex, who can hear me. Excellent. So I'm happy to talk to you about how to find the college that fits you, what to think about college, how to visit colleges, how to look at them, how to choose the one you want the most, or the ones you want the most to be even better, and then how to not only get in, but be ready to excel there and have the time of your life, which is the key. My philosophy is that it's not about getting into the most prestigious school for your aunt and uncle to brag about you. It's for you to find a school that fits you the very best and that you can do the work you want to do and make the life you want to make and become the person you want to be. And that's worked out incredibly well for 100% of all of my students. I tutor the SAT, ACT, other tough tests, and I can't say that 100% of my students get a perfect score. That's not true. Almost everybody makes big gains, but still not 100%. Some people don't do the work, they don't make gains. But 100% of my college counselees do find admission at a school that they truly love. So I love that part of my job. And I get to go visit colleges around the world, which are wonderful. It's a great thing to do. Great food, great people, exciting young people doing exciting things, kind of like here. Yeah. So, the people I've met so far have been rising juniors. Is there anybody who's not a rising junior? Where are you going into?
Rising senior.
Rising senior? Anybody who's not a rising senior or a junior?
Rising sophomore.
Okay. Overachiever. Nice. So some of you have probably already looked around at colleges. How many people have visited college campuses and started thinking about it a lot? So tell me about your experience so far.
So far I visited 12 in the south and the northeast because I can visit the California ones whenever I want to. So
This summer you went or earlier?
earlier,
Was school in session?
spring break.
So some of the campuses were in session, right?
Yeah, they
Because
were.
they have different spring breaks than you did.
Yeah.
Where do you go to school now?
Urban School, San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
And my experience was that a lot of the places, like all of them I'd be perfectly happy going to. They have different things to offer, and they all are very proud of different things about themselves.
Every school is #1 in something, and they will tell you about it, don't they? Every single time. Did you do any interviews at any of the schools?
No, a bit early for that.
Yeah, you're one of the rising juniors.
We're rising seniors.
You are a rising senior.
I was just like doing tours and info sessions and all that.
Cool. Did you find one that you liked the most?
A lot. Loved Cornell.
And do you want to be an engineer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So you saw Cornell in New York, upstate New York, in Ithaca. Did you see Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
In the south?
UT Austin, Carnegie Mellon, MIT, half the Ivies.
Nice. Did you see Dartmouth?
No.
Okay. If you go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the most undergraduate focused of the Ivies. It's worth a look. I went to an Ivy League school once upon a time, and I wouldn't have said that about Dartmouth back. I'm 56, so it was 40 years ago or something, almost 40 years ago. So it wasn't all that great shakes back in the day, but it is now. Anybody have a different experience? Visiting schools locally, big schools maybe instead, big state schools? Anybody visited any of those? Anybody want to? Why don't you guys tell me some ideas that you have about, I know Zach, right, was really interested in college from what I hear. What kind of questions did you have?
I wanted to know just like basic things about like things that are different from high school and college, which I'm sure there's a lot of. So like you're prepared when you go.
Yeah. I can tell you my experience. When I didn't get to go to such a nice high school. I didn't go to urban. I went to a public school in LA County, in a really awful part of LA County. And I had some friends. I had plenty of friends, actually. I played baseball, so I had friends on the baseball team. And I had about 3 other people at the school who were really interested in ideas and academics, so they were friends with me. And I kind of didn't fit in with the nerds, and I kind of didn't fit in with the jocks, but I managed to make friends among both. And so I was not all that happy in LA. And I went to college. My first college was UC Santa Cruz. And I got there, and my life changed. All of a sudden, I was just like, the minute I stepped on campus, everything was perfect. And they're surrounded by all this opportunity. And at that time, it was only 7,000 students, and it was pretty much like I went to Yale later, and it wasn't all that different, really. Today, it's quite different. But it's still beautiful, and it's still full of interesting people, and you can do anything. And girls liked me there, and they never liked me in high school, so I kind of liked that. So that was exciting. And there just was, people were not superficially judgmental like in high school, and people are a little more mature, and it's just exciting, and everything's possible. It was the best time of my life, like it is for most people. So, it's different. You can also feel really independent, because you are. And you can do anything you want to do, basically. Yes?
I was kind of curious about some liberal arts schools. They offer 3-2 programs. So
Yeah.
you do 3 years at a liberal arts school and then
Yeah.
2 years at a big engineering school.
Right.
I was kind of curious, like, if you know a lot about that and like how people experiences take
Yeah.
that track.
Absolutely, and since that's going to be a pretty common interest here, we should talk about it. Thanks for asking. What's your name?
Charlie?
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, so 3-2, do you want to explain what that is to people who might not know?
Yeah, so you could go to a school like William and Mary, or a school out in the South that's kind of smaller and might not have a big engineering program, and you take like 4 liberal arts classes, and then after those 3 years, there might be a certain requirement, maybe like a GPA requirement, a certain class you have to take, like heavy math, and after those 3 years, you can transfer to like Columbia, or Georgia Tech, or one of those engineering schools.
Yeah, exactly. So there are definite requirements of what you need to take. You need to plan ahead well. You don't have to pay that much attention freshman year at most programs, so you can still change your mind later if you want. You should, in fact, take a broad number of classes freshman year and get all of the humanities out of your system that you can, and all the English classes and foreign language classes and history, etc. Because you want to explore that, and you might surprise yourself and fall in love with like the classics or sociolinguistics like I did, and say, what? And who knew? And that could change your major, or it might not. You could say, well, thank God that's out of the way, and now I can focus on what I really love. So that's the best thing you can do freshman and sophomore year, is really explore wildly. But also be careful that if you want to go to a 3-2 program, you're getting as many A's as possible. You're really keeping up your GPA. Because if you go to a school that is aligned with, say, Columbia, which quite a few are, especially in Pennsylvania, East Coast, there are quite a few that have 3-2 programs with Columbia in particular. And you want to make sure that you are one of the people chosen to continue, because it's possible, but it's not guaranteed. If you don't meet the GPA cutoff, if you haven't taken all the prerequisite courses. So you'll know what those are, and you'll be on track, and you'll be able to do that. and you do need to represent math especially, but some of the other programs I want you to take. Then you will get a degree from Columbia, and you will also get a degree from the other school that you attended, and you'll have your choice of wonderful places. They just don't offer engineering degrees, so they partner up with people who do. So, and then you get not just an engineering degree, but you get a master's in engineering along with a BA or BS. I have a BS degree, which cracks me up because it's in history. So I can BS in history really well. The BS is a Bachelor of Science, or the other BS. And a BA is a Bachelor of Arts, which most people get in history, but my school gave a BS for some reason. So, yeah.
Sort of a broad question, but like everyone said that college is the best time of your life. Does life get like substantially worse after college?
Yeah, obviously. By definition, right? It has to. I thought about that as I said it, and then I realized that I'm still having the best time of my life. So I've had ups and downs in my life, and I guarantee you will have the same. Absolutely, that's a guarantee. I give very few guarantees, but that's one. You will have really bad days. They will come. And you'll have really good days too. And college might not be the best time of your life. It's not for everybody. It is for many people. I thought a lot about this. It's part of my job. So what I found is that many people are extremely happy at that time of life. It's just a time of life where you're going to be happy. So some people think, yeah, the Army, you know, it was really awful and hard, and people around me were getting killed, but it was the best time of my life. I'm like, oh yeah, you were 18 to 22. And you were around a bunch of people doing really hard work that really mattered. Oh yeah. So you have all these, you're thrown into a really intense environment and you really care about it, it's going to be good. Well, if you keep doing that, even if you're not 18 to 22, it's still going to be good. So I keep doing that and I have a great time and I keep coming up with new ways to challenge myself. So life is still good. But in some ways, life was the best because it was the first time I had that experience, the first time I was on my own and could make new friends of my choosing 100% without my parents worrying about what they thought or what they wanted or pleasing anybody else. And just, you know, I could go explore anything I wanted to explore in any field. So you'll have more constraints on you later.
If you're not sure what you want to major in, but you have like a slight idea about what you might want to major in, should you apply to college with that major, like saying you're going to plan to major in that, or go in undefined?
There's this great writer named Dan Savage who writes at Cowan. Anybody ever read Dan Savage's stuff? He's a really funny writer, and he's an advice columnist, supposedly, but he writes an advice column about sex, so you guys would all be interested. And, but it pretends to be about sex, because it's really humor. And it's really humor about politics is what he really is writing about. And he said that his job is super easy because people write him letters and they always say at the very beginning, well, I know what I'm supposed to do is X, but I really don't want to. So what do you think I should do in this situation where like I've cheated on my last 7 girlfriends and da 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 da? And you know, he's like, well, yeah, you're supposed to tell the truth, duh, right? And so, they always give the right answer at the beginning. So his job is just to take off the part where they say, I know what I'm supposed to do. And he gives the question, and then he rewords it, because he writes a lot better and makes fun of them, and puts it in the answer. So I think you did that. You said, well, should I, da 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 da, right? Yes. You already knew that. So if you have an interest in something, you should go to a college that provides that possibility and many others, right?
But what if you're not sure if that's what you want to do?
But is it a possibility?
Yeah.
So don't you want to go somewhere where that possibility could possibly be there for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you want to go somewhere where there are other possibilities you could explore too?
Yeah.
You knew that, didn't you?
Yeah.
I know.
But it's like, do you go in saying you are going to major in that, or do you just go in undefined?
That's a really good question. And actually, that's a great question. Thank you. What's your name?
Ben.
Ben. Thanks, Ed. Thank you for laughing with me too. I wasn't trying to pick on you. Well, I guess I was. Okay, I succeeded. So yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and no. So you guys, most of you want to be engineers, or at least have that option available to you. And you might know that engineering programs are the most sought after today. It wasn't true a long time ago. There are different times, different eras where you can make more money in different fields, basically. When I was your age, I thought I had a hard time asking girls out, but my friends who were going to be engineers had an even harder time. So now, you guys are all rock stars. It's like so unfair. So it's awesome. Congratulations. So now you're like super popular. You like the popular thing. That's a wonderful thing. So why? I think it's because you can make a lot of money and be really successful. And people realize that you're really creative and cool. And in the past, nobody figured out those last two things. And it wasn't true that you could make as much money as you can now in engineering or all of STEAM programs, especially the STEM of the STEAM. So that means, since the programs are so impacted and so hard to get into, that if your GPA isn't super high because you've been busy thinking harder thoughts and not paying attention to your schoolwork maybe, which I don't know anybody like that. Never, it was totally there are other ways to get into schools that you want to be in the engineering program and then get the grades in that school and then petition to be an engineer, to get into the engineering program. And I would recommend that if you want to go to, say, UC Berkeley and you don't have beyond a 4.0 and perfect SAT score, then maybe you don't want to apply to the engineering program because it's so hard to get into. You might want to state another major or go undeclared and then get into the engineering program. Or you might, if you have those grades and test scores, just go ahead and say that's what you want to do and then you'll start that way. So that's something you want to consult with oh, hey, somebody like me. So give me a call and we'll get together and we'll look it over. And that's something that's really important to look at. So that's later on the strategy for when you're applying to schools. That's a really strategic question. And you want to be careful about it. So that's a really serious question in the end. Okay. Oh, last thing, and I promise you're next. And then you're next. Then it's also important not to give up, no matter what. In America, you have nearly infinite chances to do whatever you want. In some other countries, it would have been over for you. If you wanted to do, you're already a rising junior or senior, because there was only one rising sophomore, and that was you. So you would have had to, in every other country, everybody here would have had to, in almost every other country, decide what you wanted to study in college before this. And it would have been set. And either you were not going to go to college at all, or you were going to major in a certain thing, and that's the end of it, and there's no change. Thank you very much. In the United States, you go to undergraduate for 4 years, and you can change your major 4 times, and extend it to 5 or 6 years if you want. Or you could not. You could know for sure right away and just go straight through, and either way works. And then later you could decide, like my friend Lisa did at 43, she decided, oh, you know what? I don't want to do housing policy. I want to be a medical doctor. And she went back to school and she took all the biology courses she had to take and all the chemistry courses she had to take that she never took because she was a humanities major before. And then she went to medical school and she's a doctor now. So there's no end to when you can do stuff in our country. So don't give up. There's lots of ways. And so then again, you could talk to somebody like me and we help you figure that kind of thing out. So, tell me your name.
Sammy.
Hi, Sammy.
Hi, so my brother is going to Northeastern, and I learned a lot about their co-op program.
Yeah.
And like basically, for people who don't know, it's like you take a 5th year in the middle of your 4 years of like like the school sets you up with an internship for a full year. And I was wondering, is that something special to that, like to Northeastern, or is like a lot of other schools starting to do that now, or like do things like that? Is that really common?
So how many people already know my favorite answer? Oh, come on.
Yes.
Thank you. It wasn't that hard. I've already said it like 17 times. So yes. It's the same answer I give whenever the waiter comes and it's time for dessert and tells me like the 7 desserts. He goes, which one do you want? I go, yes. So what? Yeah, just we'll all share. It's all good. So Yes, it's special to Northeastern, and yes, other schools have it, but not every other school. Every school that you guys want to go to will have good internship programs, every single one. Some will have more than others, but it's a really common thing to have internships now. People have realized finally, when I was at school, I went to UC Berkeley for grad school, and I got a degree in education and one in sociolinguistics, which I discovered there. When I was in the School of Ed there, one huge thing, and this is 25 years ago, that people were like all excited about was they realized, hey, you know what? People don't learn that much inside of school. You learn a lot more on the job, which was a big thing for a school of education, a university to tell you, right? And what do you know? 25 years later, universities have really figured this out. And now they say, well, why don't you go do an internship then and actually get on the job and learn stuff? So, so that's really common to have internships. And you can do them for credit. You'll get college credit for it. You can do them for pay, but then you don't usually get the credit, so you have to make up that year of school. Or you could do some sort of semester for credit, semester for pay. And that's a pretty common thing. If you decide later you want to be a lawyer, which is a really great combo, engineer, lawyer, super in demand, you'll go to law school, and every law student every summer makes big money at the top law schools doing law. Really kind of grunt law, but doing law in the summer for big firms or small firms or whatever they want to do. So it's something to keep in mind. And I know several people who are engineers and lawyers and work in both fields and have a great life and love it. So more than most of the lawyers I know, in fact, they're really happy here. So I'm glad you have an older sib who can show you the ropes. That's really helpful. And did you ever go spend the night at Northeastern? No.
He did.
I'm sorry?
He did.
Before he went to school there?
Yeah, he's going into college. He hasn't.
Oh, he's just going, oh, well then perfect. You have somebody to go visit and stay with and sleep in the dorms and go to a class. And then you can go to all the other, I don't know, must be over 300 colleges within 60 miles of there. So every year I get to go on college tours, and every 3 years or so I go to the Boston area because it's so target rich. You can just walk to different campuses that are all fantastic. So from Northeastern, you could walk to MIT, to Harvard, to Boston University, Boston College, Emerson, and a bunch of other wonderful places. So can't really go wrong. I promised you were next.
Depending on how you answer that one.
Oh, great. Yes, Zach.
I'm super interested in it, but what's culture outside the U.S.?
Yes, thank you for asking that. That's one of my favorite things. So I just got back from Africa. It's the first time that I have toured somewhere outside the U.S. that I did not visit a university. Exactly. I did walk to a couple, and I met one of my students who's a graduate student here who's working in Rwanda. And he took me to a high school where I talked to students, and they all want to come study here, every single one. It's crazy. But and I kind of tried to talk them out of that. But there are a couple of good universities in Africa, and I did visit one in Johannesburg, so it's not true. I did go. But I always tour them in Europe, and it's something to keep in mind. You might want to study in Europe. It could be really great. I have students every year who go to either England or France sometimes, or the Netherlands. And if you go to Germany, it'll be free. So you might really want to think about going to Germany. The undergraduate programs in France and Germany and other, in the Netherlands for that matter, tend to be in the native language of the country. Every graduate program in Europe, though, is in English. So you're set. You all speak English. You might have a language, a European language on top of that, and then you could really consider going there. The big difference is something I alluded to before when Ben asked that question about you know, what should I major in? You do have to declare a major if you go to school somewhere else. And you pretty much just take classes in that one discipline. So if you don't know for sure what you want to do, it's probably not a great idea for you to go abroad. Although it's still a great idea to go abroad for a semester or a year. And I did that, and I loved it. It was the best time of my life. So it really was. I went to France. I loved France. I stayed there for longer. I decided I'd take a little break from university, one of several. And I worked and I traveled all over Europe and I taught English to students. And then I went to university there for a year, in addition to the year I did as a sort of separate thing with the school I was in. So you can do that again, just like the internships at every university or college you go to, guaranteed. Who has a question about when should you start thinking about school? Great question, thank you. Yesterday, but not in any way that makes you feel bad. You'll have endless possibilities. The sooner you start exploring, the more options you'll have. And you don't have to try to fit into any one school. There are thousands of colleges just in the United States. You can add in Canada very easily, similar programs, and then the rest of the world. And we're talking maybe 10,000 different colleges to choose from. Guess what? There are several that fit you really, really well, guaranteed. And you don't have to pretend to be anybody else. In fact, I don't understand why anybody would want to do that. Why would you want to apply to a college pretending to be somebody you think they want, and then you get there and it's not what you want? Instead, the secret is to really do what you love now, and really do it right. And if you consult with somebody like me who can help you make that look just like to the colleges that that's what you're doing, that's helpful too. And if you didn't, you'll still be okay, I suppose, probably. But no, you'll be fine. But it is great if you have somebody you trust that you can talk to about how to do what you love now, preparing for what you want to do, you think you want to do now, and you can change your mind later, it's totally fine. And you're getting ready for college in that way. Of course, you want to do your very best in every class. The number one thing that all schools are going to look at is your GPA. Did you get the top grades in the toughest classes that were available to you at your school? And you're in high school, so you're going to take everything that the high school allows you to take. So you'll be you'll get a pretty good education about a lot of different things. And your school might not offer certain courses, and the colleges understand that that's okay. They don't expect you to take classes outside of your high school. However, some students do. So I have students every year who go to college while they're in high school. I did that. And I took some classes that weren't available at my high school, and I really liked them a lot better than most of the classes at my high school. I only took 2, but I liked them both. And at a little college not too far from where I went to high school. You could do that. People do that all the time. City College has courses that you could take, and they're pretty much free. And that's the easiest to get into, but there are other ways to do it. Highly recommended if your high school doesn't offer a math class that you really want, or the teacher sucks, go do it somewhere where you get a better teacher. And that would be a really good idea. The other thing is that you want to have an NTA. And a colleague of mine, I love acronyms. And NTA is not my favorite acronym, but it stands for a non-teen activity. And this is where you take your passion for something and you do something with it that other teens don't do. So this is a great program. You're going to definitely want to make sure that colleges know you did this program. This is going to be something that they'll like to see. Hey, you want to apply, especially if you want to apply to engineering schools. What do you know? I did a Blue Stamp engineering program and I built this wonderful thing and it made me decide to do blah, 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 blah the next time, and then I went on. Well, that's cool, but that's a RTA, a rare teen activity. And that's a good thing. What if you take that to the next level and make it something that almost no teens ever do? Like, you decide, hey, you know what? We need a mini Blue Stamp at my school, and you bring that program in. Well, that's going to show amazing leadership. Or you say, you know, I want to teach younger kids the joy I have for building things. And you go to a public elementary school, say, in the city, and you talk to the principal and you organize how you can have engineering Wednesdays or something, and you do little projects with those kids and get them excited. That's a pretty hard thing to do. It takes a lot of effort, and you build it so that it continues on after you. That's a big deal. I'll just close with this idea of a student I had who, from down at Gunn High School in Palo Alto. He loved